Picture this. You've gotten your dream job. You're in the writer's room for a show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. And your first assignment is to write an episode around your least favorite character. That's the premise for today's video. Now keep in mind the key word in that phrase is still favorite. I don't hate this character. I don't even dislike this character. I love all the TNG characters. But if I had to pick one that, again, from a writer's perspective, that is my least favorite, it'd be this one. Guys, I'm Trader Bubba. This here's Cousin Emmy helping me thank my first Patreon backers. Thank you so much for your support. More about that later. And you are watching Bubba Breaks Sci-Fi.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
So say we all. Engage.
So my pick is the man, the myth, the walking HR disaster that is Commander William T. Riker. Did we ever find out what the T stands for? Because if it's Tiberius, I'm going to laugh. Now look, when Star Trek: The Next Generation was being developed, they were very smart in the creation of the characters, in my opinion. They didn't want a Captain Kirk clone, knockoff, whatever, as the captain. They wanted something fresh, something different. So we got Captain Jean-Luc Picard, you know, your kind of staunch, you know, stiff British naval commander. But they still needed a fun cowboy action man. And that is where William Riker comes in. He is basically Kirk Jr., hence the T for his middle name. In the first season, Riker is very outgoing. He's very ambitious, which at that point would actually make him very fun to write, because he really is that sort of cautiously but still looking before you leap figure. And it's interesting when you look at that character in the first season. And the first seasons, for some reason, don't get, I think, as much love as they should, you know, but that's a subject for another video. But looking at Riker in the first season, he's very commanding. He wants so bad to be captain. He wants to be the guy in charge because he believes in himself that much. And it's his life ambition to be the guy in the center chair on these romantic, you know, adventures in the space to see what's out there. He doesn't crave battle. He's not Worf. He just wants to be the guy. I love in the first season, anytime they're on an away mission, which Commander Riker is in charge of. That's one thing they changed in this series. You know, the captain doesn't go on away missions.
All right, men, this is a dangerous mission, and it's likely one of us will be killed. The landing party will consist of myself, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, and Ensign Ricky.
Ah, crap.
But the first officer does. And this is where you really see him sort of fill in that classic Captain Kirk role, because this is where he really is in command. You know, he's away from the ship. He's in charge of everyone, and he takes the job very seriously. Whatever the mission is, you know, he's there to fulfill that mission, protect his crew, do it as fast and safe and as efficient as possible. He comes off very intense during the first season away mission scenes. You know, in these moments of crisis in the first series, in the first season, this is where you really see him sort of fulfill that Captain Kirk need, that action man, the take charge. Again, very intense. He really is the sort of natural gung-ho leader. And Jonathan Frakes does such an amazing job. Just look at the little nuances here as he plays this character, because he's not saying anything. He's reacting to the moment. Captain Picard's trying to give orders, but he's a little incapacitated here. And just watch as Riker, you know, it has these looks, you know, kind of going back and forth, like, okay, he's kind of, you know, he's like, well, Picard's kind of saying the right thing, but he wants so bad to just kind of push Picard out of the way, take command. And that's why this episode is brought to you by the Smells Like Command scented candle. Hey y'all, I'm Trader Bubba. This is Cousin Emmy, and when I hit 1,000 subs, we're giving away this Smells Like Command scented candle. And I'll be doing some other fun giveaways as well. I've got all sorts of fun merch in the store. None of the proceeds go to me, none of it goes to the YouTube channel. It's all for a good cause. So hit that subscribe button and let's get up to 1,000 subs, and I will send you some free goodies.
Hello! Good luck with the giveaway. Bye!
Riker's character really takes shape in the first season episode, the 10010, whatever it is actually titled. And it's this episode where he falls in love with Minuet, this hologram character. And this is where we really start to see the development of Will Riker's character. He is very much a romantic at heart. At this point, you know, this is still early on in the first season. I think about halfway through the first season. We know he had a relationship with Troy. We don't really know the backstory there outside of that, you know, career took them apart. And is there regret? You know, there's still, we don't know that much yet about him and Troy. But it's this episode right here that we see that Riker loves the ladies. He loves jazz. He loves smooth, sexy. I mean, this is Will Riker in a nutshell. I almost picked this episode for the Patreon thing. So on Patreon, you can actually watch an entire episode of Star Trek with me and we have a lot of fun with it. It's on Patreon. It's not this episode. I picked a different episode. And it's a surprise. So if you're interested, go to Patreon. You don't have to be a monthly subscriber to watch that video. But this is the episode that, upon rewatching and researching for this video, where we finally see the first real character development for Will. And it's also, too, this is kind of the first time we see him and Picard kind of relax a little bit together. They're smiling, they're laughing, they have a good time. He's like Captain Picard, but smooth, or Captain Kirk, but smoother. Like, that's the best way to describe it. And for me personally, I have a hard time writing that because, okay, he loves jazz. He loves the smoothness. He wants to be smooth with the women. He loves women, and it's a whole trope for later. It's interesting because he's so self-aware in this episode. He knows she's a hologram. He knows that she is not real, but she's having such an effect on him, and he's self-aware of it. And he even asks, how far can this relationship go? And it's such an interesting thing with Riker because it's almost like he's very self-aware of his biggest flaw, his biggest weakness, which is quite frankly, women. Because as a writer, it's so incredibly difficult to write. What do you do with that? Do you know, besides introducing him to different love interests in so many episodes? And that's kind of the trope this character falls into as the series goes on. And that's one of the main reasons that, you know, for me, Riker is my least favorite, keyword there still being favorite, guys, relax, character. And then finally in the first season, the sort of last real episode where he kind of has at least a bigger presence and impact is the Arsenal of Freedom. Again, this is kind of a fun action episode. You know, he does this funny flip over a rock. It's hilarious. Again, he really is the Captain Kirk of the show, especially in this first season. In the second season, there's a pretty dramatic shift in the Will Riker character. This is where it kind of gets interesting, and some people call it the Felicity effect, which is almost as dated a reference as this show. But there's a famous moment in TV history with Felicity, who had long curly hair, and then she cut her hair and the ratings dropped. In researching this episode, I've seen some Star Trek fans refer to this moment as the Felicity moment. So here's our reveal at Commander Riker in season 2. The beard has arrived. Now, and it's weird because I don't know if it's the beard or what, but he just looks older. He's walking like he's older. It's strange. He carries himself differently moving forward here. And there's the Riker maneuver. Is it the beard alone? Is that why he just looks and feels different? Or did Jonathan Frakes make a conscious decision to maybe loosen him up a little bit and play the character a little different? Whatever the reason is, Commander Riker has changed somewhat dramatically and drastically in this second season. He's far looser. He's a much more calm. He's still that commanding presence when he needs to be, but he's not so intense like 24/7. So this is the first episode where they really tackle Riker and Troy's relationship.
Counselor Deanna Troi is pregnant.
I don't mean to be indelicate, but who's the father?
You know, so it kind of gets to the point to where, what do you do with a character like Riker at this point? First season Riker, who was so ambitious, gung-ho man of action to season 2 Riker, where you start to see him sort of mellow out a little bit. And he likes the prestige, I guess, of being on the Enterprise. And they do that to him a couple of times where it's like, hey, you're awesome action, man. You want to be captain of the ship? And he says no. So it kind of gets to the point where like, what do you do with this character? So that's actually the first episode of the second season. And it's not until episode 14. So 13 episodes later, halfway through the season, Riker, we meet Riker and his dad, and we see that their relationship had some issues. He's a guy with daddy problems. And from a writer's point of view, I kind of get a little tired of that trope a little bit. It gets used a lot with male lead characters, which is fine. It's not like a bad thing. They just don't do anything new and interesting with it in this case. His dad did the best he could, but Will just never felt like he had the love, respect, and attention that he wanted from his dad. So it's an interesting character trait. But from a storytelling point of view, as far as writing any future episodes, like, what do you do with that? How does that affect him now? Does he have trust issues? Is he constantly this guy who's just trying to impress his dad? Because it never really comes up again. So it's just like, I don't know. I felt like they never really found the footing with Riker, which in some cases as a writer can be a good thing, because really anything goes with Riker, I guess, if you want to write an episode around him. It's not like Picard where you have to include his stoicism. A lot of the times the show fell on these tropes of putting Picard in what we call a fish out of water scenario, right? Because he's so stoic and he tries to put on airs, as we call it. So you put him in a position to where that doesn't work, and make him uncomfortable. And, but Riker just doesn't have any of these like flaws. So you can kind of really do anything and everything with this character, which in some ways is good. In other ways, it can kind of be hindering as a writer. And then really not until the end of the season do we get another sort of Riker episode. And again, it's Action Man. It's Captain Kirk episode.
When Bractor closes in, we'll hit our warp drive, take our chances.
Impossible. That ship was rendered warp inactive.
I told you he was the best.
So Commander Riker's this amazing captain, a tactical genius. And I mean, not really. It was really Wesley that saved the day in that episode. But again, from a writer's perspective, it's like, okay, so unless you're doing these sort of fun, action submarine warfare type episodes, again, I find Riker a little hard to write for. And now we're up to season 3. And this is where the show in general takes a big change. They got a new head writer, the new uniforms, and this is where you start to see the other shift into the Commander Riker that we'll kind of see for the rest of the series, really. But what's the first thing they do with this even more seasoned, a little bit more relaxed, sort of chill but still natural leader of a character? They give him a pretty blonde. This is episode 8 of season 3, but this is what they do with him. This is his first outing in season 3, not until episode 8. And he's back into just falling in love once again with yet another woman. This is his, I think, 3rd or 4th conquest in the series, I think we can call it. And, again, from a writer's point of view, is like, is that all he's good for? Is falling in love with a woman that he'll eventually have to have conflict with? It's interesting storytelling, I guess, but again, it kind of becomes a trope later on again in the series. What can we do with him besides giving him blonde hotties to shoot? So before I get into the next little segment here, I almost picked this episode to watch with everyone on for the Patreon exclusive video. I chose against it because I don't know. I wanted to pick something a lot more fun and humorous. But the next episode that's Riker-centric is, again, an episode where he has a conquest, but this time the consequences get a little different.
I didn't proposition her, and I certainly didn't try to rape her.
This is kind of... and there's the meme. And this is the episode where I kind of feel like Riker's kind of hit his peak. Does he learn from this? No, he's going to have future conquests later. And again, they're going to have consequences. But anyway, it's like, this is all they can think of to do with real Riker. I guess the point of all this is to say, what would I do with the character You know, if I was in the writer's room, like, I love episodics. I love that each episode is its own beginning, middle, and end. You can watch them out of order, and for the most part, you're going to do just fine. The one problem with that is it's like sometimes it feels like the characters never learn from their mistakes. Riker's going to fall in love with every alien woman he can get his hands on, and sometimes with dire consequences, and nothing changes. But as a character, what do you do with the stoic hero action man character? You know, how do you tell compelling stories around that? You know, you get kind of limited, and it's just not interesting to me, because for me, Star Trek at its best is talking about humanity. It's turning a mirror on ourselves and the human condition, and that's what interests me most of all. I still love fun action episodes. I still love Commander Riker. And the proof of this problem actually lies in one of my all-time favorite episodes of Star Trek. It's the episode that follows the season opening of Best of Both Worlds Part 2. So when the Enterprise goes home, they're at Earth. Best of Both Worlds just happened, and they're at Earth kind of recovering from the events of Best of Both Worlds and the whole Borg thing. And this episode is called Family. And here you see Picard wrestling, you know, with his brother. But other characters have a lot of fun stuff here too. You see Wesley Crusher here. He's about to get a message from his dad. This is Jack Crusher, who, you know, died when Wesley was very young. And this is supposed to be the first of many messages he makes for Wesley, but this is the only one he ever had a chance to. So Wesley has a moment here. And Worf has a nice little family subplot here. We get to meet Worf's Earth parents. So my point is that all these characters have all these moments in this episode around their family. Now, Geordi doesn't, Data doesn't. I'm kind of sad that Geordi didn't get at least something in this episode too, but Riker doesn't either. It kind of goes to show like, that character's designed for certain episodes doesn't work for this more character-driven stuff. And I mean, obviously too, he had a big presence in Best of Both Worlds and everything. But in the follow-up episode, what's the fallout from that? He was captain in the Enterprise. Will Riker literally just saved, Earth. What's the fallout from that? We never really got that. It was all focused on Picard. And again, part of that too is Riker's the action man hero. You know, he saves the day and then he just moves on. So when it comes to the more character-driven stuff, they have to rely on the other characters. For the fun action stuff, you've got Commander Diehard, William T. Riker. Guys, I'm Trader Bubba. Don't forget to check out the Patreon page where you can watch a full episode of Star Trek The Next Generation with me, one of my favorite Riker episodes. It's not completely centered around Riker. Check it out. You're going to love it. Thank you so much to my subscribers, new and old alike. This channel is blowing up. I can't thank you enough for your continued support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. I will see you in the next video.